right, race fans, Brian Aho here, and the one and only Bert Lehman, bringing you episode 79. Bert, 79. You got a guy? I hope you got a guy this week.
Yes.
On the go show. 79. We're gonna do this again. Who do you got? Who do you got at 79?
I have Jerry Munster, who is still racing, and he is in his 80s, and he's still racing and still competitive.
Are you serious? He's in his 80s? I had no idea.
Yes.
Did he win one last weekend too?
Eddie Munster won last weekend.
Is that his kid, or that's his kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. No kidding. Yeah. He's in his 80s and still. Yeah. I feel like a quitter, man. I quit like a long time ago. I was nowhere near 80. Maybe I need to get back after this thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure how old. I think he's like 83 or somewhere around there.
Man, that is awesome. We got to interview that guy because I bet he's got some good racing stories. So I can't beat that, but I got Dale Carlson. Of course, his kid Kevin Carlson is 79 too. Both late model guys, and Dale raced all the way through the 80s and up. And of course, Kevin, he's racing now as well. So that's number 79 there. So pretty cool stuff. It's kind of fun doing that. Brings you back in memory lane a little bit. In fact, we should post a picture or two of them old cars. So get me a picture of him. I'll post it up there for people to see, and I'll post one, of course, of Dale and Kevin Carlson as well. So this episode, of course, brought to you by our friends over in Watertown, South Dakota, Dirt Track Supply, home of the Aero chassis, be part of Aero Nation, trackside supply for several tracks. I think they're at Monty. I know they're at Casino. I think they're over in Aberdeen as well. Ron and Trevor, great guys. They'll take great care of you. If you need parts, if you need service, you need something fixed, get a hold of them guys. They do good work. And of course, they're going to get in victory lane. Trevor kind of had a rough one there. He drew bad, Bert. If you were watching over at Casino, Trevor always draws bad, like always. Trevor Anderson, is the worst redraw person in the history of redraw. He started in the fourth row, and then I think his studs broke or whatever on the hub. He lost a tire, so it was a bad night. But I talked to him today, said Aero Nation's going to be on the front row next week at the Casino Speedway because of the point average, so go out and make them pay. So get a hold of the guys at Dirt Track Supply. Great group of folks, and they do a lot for the sport. They help a lot of people out, and just glad to be partnered up with them. So, Bert, let's start with over in eastern Wisconsin. We'll start with you. I know you went to the races this weekend in Shawano, Plymouth, back in action. I know there was other racing going on. What happened over in your neck of the woods?
Yes, I was at the races this last week, and funny thing is, the previous weekend I wore a short sleeve shirt the entire night, was fine the entire night. This last week, I think I had 6 or 7 layers on. It was chilly, and the wind was blowing a little bit, so that made it a little cold. But I was a little worried about late model car count at Shawano because there's a handful of drivers who made the trip to Mississippi Thunder for the Outlaw race to try to make the race there. But they had 14 late models in Shawano, so not great, but not too bad. They had 14 in Shawano, and they were missing a handful of them. And I think there were 13 in Plymouth, and Taylor Scheffler wasn't there, who's normally a regular at Plymouth. So, Nick Avlink was at Mississippi Thunder, so he won. He won previously, so we had a new winner at Shawano. Todd Frank him and his son made the trip over, and Todd Frank won the feature. Aaron Wickersheim was second. So, one thing about when some of the top guys go race at a different track, you get to see some of the other drivers, racing up to towards the front. So that's always cool. But yeah, it was good to see Todd Frank back in victory lane. He deserved the win. Aaron Wickersheim actually jumped out to a fairly decent lead, and Frank ran him down, running a little bit higher groove, and made the pass. And then after the pass, then it was all over after that. So yeah, he got the win there. And in Plymouth, apparently Justin Ritchie doesn't like you talking about him wearing a bridesmaid dress because he made it 2 in a row at Plymouth. So last year he didn't win any features, and this year now, first week of May he's already got 2 features. So we'll see how many he can put together for the entire season.
Yeah, I talked to both them guys, Todd Frank and Justin Ritchie, and he says, yeah, you kind of lit a fire under my ass a little bit with the power rankings and the show. He goes, so we need to keep on winning for sure. And, of course, he's in the top 10 in the one-to-go show power rankings in the late models because he's been running real well. Correction on that, I said he had second last week. I think over at Gravity Park, he got fifth the one night, but he's been solid. A pair of wins for him. I talked to Todd Frank, and I said, when's the last time you won? He goes, man, I barely raced last year. I ran, last year I felt like he was out hunting more than anything. I see big game. He's like posting all kinds of big game. He's an avid hunter as well. But I think he won 3 features in 2019. So it's been a little while since he won. I said, how did it feel? He goes, man, it's good to be back in victory lane. He goes, I feel like we have something for Nick Anvelick when he comes back to town. So Nick, Todd Frank's calling you out. We're going to see if you want to do something for him. It'll be interesting to see this coming week. So, Bert, I went racing this week too, hey. And I picked a terrible week to do it, right? Because it was cold and windy. And they say Illinois, Chicago's the windy city. I was a little west of there, of course. I went to LaSalle to the Thaw Brawl. And I am very glad that I brought a hoodie. I'm getting soft in my old age, right? I'm getting really soft because I brought a hoodie. I brought a jacket. I was frozen. I was absolutely frozen. I went over there with a buddy of mine, Dave Dolchek, and doing a little testing. He doesn't normally run there. Different rules package, so it wasn't apples to apples what he was racing, but he just wanted to kind of get the feel of things before his home track opens at Sycamore. So I helped him out a little bit, had some fun. But they had the Thaw Brawl there, which was the opener for the Mars Late Model Series. And, of course, LaSalle, it's been like 3 years or so since they ran weekly. I'm not sure what happened. The family had like a falling out, and they just said, heck with it, we're not running weekly anymore. So now they primarily just have specials. Well, the first night, kind of a similar deal to Boone. It was supposed to be a pair, like a pair of 3,000 to win races, right? And then the next night was going to be 12,000 to win. You can only have a pair of races if there's enough cars to have a pair of races. Boone learned that the week before. They only had I think 21 or something like that on Friday night. Now get this, Bert. Friday night, they had 21 cars for 3,000 to win. Okay. Saturday night, it's 12,000 to win. They have 17. One guy blew up, but my first donkey award, Rusty Schlenk, is a cherry picking little. I don't even know what to say. Are you serious? He literally left a 12,000 to win race to go drive somewhere for 1,000 to win so he can get his almighty UMP points. What a pansy. Then, get this, then he had the audacity to text Tony Izzo, say, hey, you said that if I came over, you're going to maybe help out with some tow money or whatever. Tony's like, what, dude, you left. What are you talking about? I'm like, I just don't understand racers, Bert. They put that kind of money on the line, and they'll go race for 1,000 to win for points instead of racing for real money. That grinds my gears. It literally pisses me off to no end. Racers, if you're watching this, if you're listening, I best not hear you cry and whine and bitch about low pay and then have you dodge the races that pay money. That don't even make sense. Why would you do that? If a race is paying money, if a promoter, and I don't care where it is, it could be the Thaw Brawl, it could be a Wissota track, it could be in eastern Wisconsin. These promoters, all of them, right? They ain't getting rich being a promoter. It just ain't happening. We'll get to that in a second, okay? But they put their neck on the line. They put their time and effort on the line to get sponsors to try to put these big shows together to put money in your pockets, and you don't support it. What the hell is the deal with that? It makes no sense to me. I just don't. It just literally frosts me. Saturday, and I get the weather was a little sketchy, but they got the feature in. Bert, they had 17 late models for 12,000 to win. They were right down the road. A bunch of them went to Fairbury, right? And I think it was $2,000 to win or 2,500 to win at Fairbury. It's like, what? And, it's it don't even make sense. They're all afraid of, Brian Shirley or whatever. Modifieds was 1,000 to win. They had 7 cars. Street stocks was 500 to win, which is pretty decent for a street stock. They had 6. Unbelievable. Modified action. Mike McKinney was there the first night, and then he went somewhere else on Saturday because he thought it was going to rain. And I'm like, well, McKinney's going to win, but Alan Weiser, that's a guy that he runs a late model once in a while too, and a mod, runs at Fairbury Farmer City. He was impressive. He doubled up. He won both of them. The first night in the late models, the guy that I picked to win on Saturday, we didn't pick for Friday. I picked Ryan Unziker to win. He did win, but it was on Friday, so that was a day early for him. Wasn't all that good on Saturday. He got fourth, and Brian Shirley got out to the lead. I'm like, it's over. It's over. This deal's done. And here comes on a restart. Garrett Alberson drove right around him. And I'm like, I'm impressed. So Garrett Alberson won. Shirley got second, and third was Tanner English. He was there. And then fourth was Unziker. I think Jason Fager got fifth. He just not, I wasn't impressed. But pretty neat place, Bert. The track was really good. They had some good moisture on it. It rolled up a cushion. There was a bottom. There was a top. It was pretty racy. You could move around on the racetrack. The mod race was really good. The late model race was pretty good. But the crowd, now keep in mind, 12,000 win. You do the math on this, right? 12,000 to win for the lates. So that had to be, I don't know, 20,000 or better purse because they got to pay second act, right? 1,000 win for the mods, and they had 7 cars and 6 cars for the streets. They had 29 total cars, Bert. 29, I think it was. 17, 30. I guess it would have been 30. So 30 total cars because one guy came late. That 30 cars. I'm like, oh my God, right? So we're complaining about car counts. That's 30 cars for some real money. I'm like, what's the deal? You know what was worse than the car count? The crowd. There couldn't have been 250 people there. I talked to Tony Izzo, and I'm like, Tony, are you hoping it rains? He's like, kinda. I'm like, why didn't you cancel? I mean, it was like 40 degrees. It was cloudy. It was kind of crappy. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, what are you thinking? He's like, and that's where Tony's a racer, right? He's thinking like a racer. He's not thinking like a business guy. Puka would be just like off his chain right now thinking about this. He would not be impressed. And it's like, I know you want to get the race in. We're all excited. We want to race. We get it. But, I mean, at some point, you got to look up. I mean, you just got to look up, and you got to be like, there ain't no fans. There's no cars. It's cold out. It's miserable. I did the math on it just in my best recollection, right? Between the cars you had in the pits, and let's say that 30 cars, let's say that there was 5 people per person, and basically, let's say there was 250, 300 people in the grandstands. I don't even know if he had enough income come in to pay first place in all 3 classes, let alone all the classes. I mean, it was a bad deal. But I said, you going to cut the purse? Because I've been to a lot of races where they say, oh, inclement weather, we're going to cut the purse. He's like, I ain't cutting the purse. I'm like, So kudos, I don't know if I would have ran it. Like, we'll start there. I probably would have canceled the deal because it was just a disaster, right? The racing was pretty good. But the flip side of that, I'm going to give him kudos because he says, Ryan, if I was expecting 1,000 people and 2,500 people show up, I'm not going to pay everybody more, right? I'm not going to pay them more. Hey, we had a way better crowd than I thought. You know what? We're just going to pay everybody more money tonight. In the history of racing, I have literally never one time seen that happen ever. But on the flip side, he says, so when it's worse, I'm not going to pay him less. He goes, I raced. I know what it costs to get here. If I cut the purse, these guys ain't ever coming back. It'll be worse next time. So he paid the full purse, even though he took a bath. I don't even want to do the total math on that, but I can guarantee he took an absolute butt kicking. But it gave me some perspective, Bert, on I'm really liking this live streaming. I really am, because it's not 40 degrees and windy and drizzly in my living room. I can promise you that. And that gives a guy something to think about there. I know his races were on, I think they were on Flow on that one, and you get a little bit of a chunk or whatever from Flow, but definitely not enough to offset it. But definitely felt good to get to the racetrack, Bert. But let's get over to Wissota country. Did you get a chance to watch any of the Wissota races? I know you had a busy weekend. You had a lot going on with Mother's Day. Did you get a chance to watch any of that?
No, I didn't get a chance to watch any of the Wissota races, but before we move on, I just want to make a couple comments about the Fall Brawl. I mean, I agree. I mean, he could have taken the easy way out and just canceled that second day. The racing actually was really good that first night. I did watch that feature, and but I suppose part of what went into his thinking was the drivers are already there, so it's kind of hard to cancel for inclement weather when because part of the excuse promoters use for canceling early because of forecasted inclement weather is because you don't want to make the drivers drive there. Well, if the drivers are already there, you can't really use that excuse. So, but yeah, kudos to him for paying out the purse. I mean, I know I've interviewed him several times because he promoted several Lucas Oil late model races up in Wisconsin. And, he tried his darndest to make those races work up in Northeast Wisconsin, but they kind of worked at Oshkosh Speed Zone, but then that track vanished. So he tried at a couple other tracks and it didn't work out. So, but yeah, I just wanted to make those comments before we moved on. But no, I didn't get a chance to watch any of the WISSOTA stuff. I saw some of the results. I saw the X Factor return to victory lane at Red Cedar. He wasn't there the first week, but he was there last week. And if I'm correct, the Red Cedar, they were allowed to have 25% capacity in the grandstand, if I'm not mistaken. So that was another good sign that hopefully they're able to work through some of these hurdles that they have to work through.
Right. Things are looking up. I know Minnesota, they announced with, the vaccines, and I'm not going to get into all the political, but it's projected around, I think, July 1st or something to be mask free and 100% capacity on everything. So let's just knock on wood and hope it goes and trends in that direction. But I'm not going to go over every single race because there was a lot of racing. I'm just going to touch on some things that really stuck out to me because with Dirt Race Central, of course, watch drc.tv. They're great supporters of our show. They have a lot of WISSOTA racing, a lot of local racing action on that you can jump on. You can watch the replay. Bert, I think it's only like $15 a month, and you can watch a pile of all this racing. And what stuck out to me, one of the races I was looking forward to, in my opinion, had the best program of the week. The baddest bull ring in South Dakota, the Casino Speedway. They got it right. It did kind of lock down a little bit at the end of the late models, but there was still some movement. But overall, they had moisture on the track, top, bottom. There was some good racing to be had out in Watertown. Red Cedar, they had some pretty good racing too. They were hustling on the high side, guys on the bottom. Gal running the high side. We'll get to that in just a minute. And Viking Speedway, I think they had some pretty good racing over on the big half mile. Now, with that said, okay, so there was a few races that were good. Another donkey award, okay? I don't know how to say it without saying it. It is what it is. But I watch some of these tracks, and I hear promoters say, man, we just can't get anybody to support us. We just can't get any fans. We just can't get drivers wanting to come here. Jump on Dirt Race Central and watch your own racing program, and you'll see why. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. I mean, if it's bone dry and blowing dust in heat one, that's a pretty good indication that it's not going to be a good night. Okay, that's unacceptable. I mean, I don't know how to say it without saying it, but I mean, quit being lazy. Okay, so with that said, there was one track that kind of went to the other extreme. Hopefully that's not a trend that they decided we're going to flood this thing and it was just a greasy mess the whole night. But, think about it this way, right? Why on earth, with the streaming platforms, online, all that, why don't these track prep guys, Bert, look online, watch racing? Like literally, I'm going to watch as much racing as I can, and I'm just going to take notes, and I'm going to be like, that one was entertaining to watch. That track over there kind of sucked, right? It's like, you can kind of see and you can follow the feeds, right? You can look on Dirt. They talk about, you can see the hype they get when there's a good race and people are like, ooh, that one kind of sucked, right? It's pretty easy to see what people like. Why not just look and see which ones are providing better entertainment and then pick their brains a little bit, or at least watch and see what they do and do that. There's no excuse for a track that's bone dry, one lane, marbly dust hole every single night. It's just, I don't get it. Maybe they got to hire somebody different. I don't get it. It's painful to me. I love dirt racing. We all love dirt racing. That's why we do this show. That's why we watch the sport. That's why we go to the races. That's why racers race. And people say all the time, oh man, dirt racing's so much better than asphalt. Not if you prep it like asphalt. It's the same thing. In fact, asphalt's better. If you prep dirt tracks like asphalt, asphalt's better. Why? Because it ain't a freaking dust bowl. You ain't going to get a dust bowl at an asphalt track. So if you're going to make it rock hard like concrete, Just pave it and be done, right? And people, drivers saying, I was one. I said this all the time, but racing is so much better. I mean, the cream rises to the top on the slick. When cars are going half throttle around the racetrack, and you went faster on the freeway to get to the racetrack than they're going on the racetrack, that's a bad thing. Okay, that's not entertaining. The casual fan just does not want to watch that. Princeton Speedway, maybe they got it right? They canceled Friday. Why did they cancel? No water. I never heard of such a thing, right? They got a pond, evidently, that they get their water from, to where they pump it out of there into the truck, and then they cancel. I'm like, why on earth would they cancel for that? That didn't make any sense to me. It's like, people are like, well, they had to cancel. They couldn't get water. No, there's water. I mean, they might have to pay for it. But we'll get a sponsor or two. Tell all the drivers, hey, if you want to race and it's an extra $5, let's figure it out. Work with the city, whatever. But I feel like they didn't try. Sounds like they have that rectified for this week. They have a solution to that problem. But maybe they had it right, because maybe, I don't know, maybe some of these other tracks that raced, maybe they had a water shortage and that's why it wasn't watered. But it was just, it was just absolutely terrible. Now, the streaming thing, Bert, I honestly, legitimately think that's a good idea. Right. And in fact, WISSOTA, they have this thing called a WISSOTA pass, right? So every promoter is given 2 WISSOTA passes. And I think each of those passes, you can have 2 people per pass. So that way you can go to other tracks, right? So like in Grand Rapids, for example, now if you're racing, if you're a participant, you got to pay to get in. Obviously, you're getting a check. But if you're a track promoter, you can use that pass and you can go to neighboring racetracks. In the intent, right? The intent of that is to go to other tracks and see, hey, what are some things they're doing here that's working? What are some things here that maybe is a good deal that we can implement at our track? And what's some things they're doing that is not working? What are some things that we're like, yeah, we ain't going to do that? Because you can learn both ways. Now, don't jump online and start hammering each individual racetrack. I'm calling them out as a group. I'm not going to come on and say this particular track was a disaster, right? I'm not going to do that. But the fact is, people should just do their homework. Racers do, right? You see racers, if they're trying to get faster, they're going to kind of look to see what the fast guys are doing and try to copy that. Why are promoters not? And some do. Some promoters are doing a great job, but some promoters, it's the same junk every year. It's like, come on. I mean, this is the entertainment business. Entertain us, right? Like, I want to be entertained. We're paying enough money. It was $40 to get in the pits over at the Thaw Brawl each day. That's not real exciting. Now, if you're a pit guy, Bert, remember when you pitted for MJ back in the day, right? How many races did you legitimately get to watch as a pit person?
Oh yeah, you don't get to watch the whole show, like, if you're a spectator.
Right. So you're paying more to get in the pits.
Actually, when I first got into MJ's crew, this was back in 1990, and I told relatives, well, more like my mom told some relatives and whatnot, and then I start talking about pit passes and paying to get in, and they would ask, you have to pay to get in? You guys put on the show. Why do you guys have to pay to get in? And a lot of fans don't realize that, yes, if you go in the pits, you have to pay to get in. And not only do you pay to get in, but you pay more than what you pay if you were just going into the grandstand.
Yeah, now I'm going to get to that, right? Because I didn't my notes, but that brings up a very valid point. In my opinion, okay, and I've been on all sides of it. I've been a fan, I've been a racer, I've been on the promoting side, I've been on all sides of this deal. And I don't care. There's going to be tracks that disagree with me because they're like, oh, we need the back gate to pay. No, you don't. Okay. In my opinion, you want to grow the sport long term, the grandstand ticket price should be the same price as the pits. Now, I'm not saying jack the grandstands all the way to the moon. I'm not saying
that's what some promoters are thinking right now,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not saying that. It's the flip side of that, right? Let's say, what is it to get in Shawano, for example?
Grandstand?
Adult.
Shawano is held firm at $10 to get into the grandstand for adults.
Now, how many fans would you say they have?
I don't even, I mean, they have a good following. So, I mean,
their crowd is big, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was told that it was over 1,000 most nights. Is that?
Oh yeah, I would say over 1,000. Yeah.
There ain't a Wissota, maybe Grand Forks, but the vast majority of Wissota tracks, you know how many fans they get? 3, 4, 5, 600 people. Take a lesson from Brad over at Shawano Speedway. His ticket prices ain't jacked to the moon, and he gets more people because it's affordable family entertainment. People ain't going to spend $100 bill every single time, right? So you don't need to charge through the moon on ticket prices. Lower your ticket prices a little bit in the grandstands. People are going to still spend the money, right? That's called the rule of 50. Might even be more than that now. But people are going to come to the track. They're going to spend 40, 50, 60 bucks regardless. It could be on ticket prices, maybe buying a T-shirt, going to the concession stands. They're going to spend X amount of dollars. And if you get it all from them, right, on the ticket prices, they're not going to eat at the concession. You're going to have people doing what? Sneaking food in their bag and purses and sneaking beer in and all that. Why? Because they're freaking broke because you charged them too much. Lower the prices a little bit. People are still going to spend their money. Now, on the flip side of it, NHRA drag racing, when you buy a pass to get into the grandstands, that's an all-access pass, right? You can actually walk through the pits. Now, it's different, right, because they're pushing the cars. It's different because you're not driving dragsters all around like you do at a dirt track. You got to be careful more at a dirt track. But that all-access pass is amazing because some of them people in the grandstands get an opportunity to see behind the scenes, and it kind of piques their interest more. The price to get in the pits should be the same or just a little bit more at most than it is to get in the grandstands. Bert, I've seen places, and I don't know what it is for a pit pass in Shawano, but I've seen a lot of tracks that are $12, $13, $15 to get in the grandstands, and it's $30 to get in the pits. $30 to get in the. Why would you pay? Why? And people are wondering why they can't get more people involved in the sport. You want to get more people involved in the sport, get more people in the pits. You want to get more people in the pits, make it so they can afford to come in the pits. That's going to have them engaged, involved, pique their interest. You're going to have future racers, and these tracks are just charging through the moon. So that's kind of off on my little soapbox right there. But the ticket prices in dirt track racing drives me bonkers. Now, there were some good things that happened too. And one thing that stuck out, River City Speedway up in Grand Forks, they had their opening night this weekend. And one thing I thought was super cool up there, Bert, is the winner of the feature carries the checkered flag. Okay. I think that's cool as hell. It don't take any more time. By the time they're done carrying the checkered flag, go to victory lane, it don't take any more time. I thought it was great. Now, what I'd like to see, and hopefully we do this over at the Downinger Automotive Grand Rapids Speedway this year, because they have the feature winners carrying it. I think the heat winners should also carry it, because when they get the race done, if they stop and they get the flag, they can make a lap, and it ain't going to add any more time. You just got to keep it flowing, right? You ain't got to stop and draw it all out. But it doesn't take really any more time to have the heat winner carry it. And the reason I say that is we'll take Rapids, and it just is what it is. I don't see Johnny Broking really losing many races there this year. I mean, maybe Sobraski or maybe Bob, maybe Ryan Jensen, maybe he'll steal one, or maybe Esty, but Johnny's going to win the lion's share of them, right? But you might have somebody that doesn't normally win a heat race, right? Is it fair to say that certain people may win a heat that never win a feature, right? But the photographer is going to get a picture of that driver carrying the checkered flag, and that could be that driver's prized possession for the next 20 years of their life, right? That could keep them coming back. That gives them an opportunity to say, hey, there's me carrying the checkered flag. I want to race over there. Yeah, it was a heat race, but to them it was a huge deal. And sometimes we lose sight of that. We're only focused on the feature winners, but there's some drivers that have been around for a long time, supporting racing, coming to the track week in, week out, never win a feature, but they steal a heat win every once in a while. So look for that to happen at Grand Rapids. I was happy to see that at least they were carrying the flag in the feature. I thought that was super cool. The local race of the week, okay? The one to go show local race of the week, Bert, surprise, surprise, Wissota Street Stocks. Again, I never thought I would say this. Viking Speedway over in Alexandria, Minnesota, my buddy Justin Vogel looked like he had it in control, and here comes Ryan Satter off of turn 4 and steals his thunder on the last lap. Great finish there over at the Viking Speedway. Another thing that I was super happy to see with this week, Bert, the Fiesta City Speedway in Montevideo and the Halberline Speedway in Proctor both had race cars on the track. Finally, they had last year off because of COVID. Proctor, of course, had their practice this weekend. Fiesta City Speedway over in Montevideo, they had their opening night of racing. Great to see that. Jesse Glenns, you already mentioned that, the X Factor. He's back in action. I mean, he curb stomped him over in Menominee. I'm thinking the late model guys over there are trying to take up a collection to make sure he has enough sponsorship money to stay on the USMTS tour, because they don't want him anywhere around, because when he gets on a tear, that dude is really, really hard to beat. So late model guys, be happy. There is a USMTS race this weekend. I'm guessing that's where he's going to be, so somebody else can win this weekend.
Oh, wait. Where's the USMTS race?
It is down in Lakeside. They're in Kansas City and then Tri-State in Oklahoma.
On what days?
Friday and Saturday.
Okay. Because he had posted he was going to try to get the Wilmot for the Dirt Kings race on Sunday.
Yep.
So
yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, that would make sense. Friday, Saturday, jump over there. So didn't he win the Diamond 43 last year?
That was the rough and tumble.
That was the rodeo race. I tell you, it was entertaining. That's for sure. I want to give a shout out, of course, to Viking Speedway too, because they're kind of going old school, doing a couple things a little different. And I'm not saying it's huge money, right? But the heat winners are getting paid. They're paying the heat winners. They're having a dash for cash where drivers have an opportunity. I think it's like a 6-lap race for an extra $100. They have a sweet bonus. If you win the heat, the dash, and the feature, I think it's an extra $200 per class. They have a points fund, right? So they're doing extra things that a lot of racetracks are not doing to try to give money back to the drivers. Again, that's a board run track. There ain't nobody gets paid there. They're going out and getting these sponsors. They have a sponsor for each class, literally to put more money into the track to give to the drivers, and they don't have to do that. It's extra above and beyond what everybody else does. So drivers, take note of that and send them guys a thank you over there at the Viking Speedway. I think that's super cool. Now, another thing, Bert, I got to look back at my notes here. So I think that's about all I have right now, Bert, on that. I do have one question for you. It seems to me, looking at the results, pretty much every track, you're seeing about 2 heats on average in every class, right? Some tracks have maybe 3 or 4 heats in a certain class or whatever. Is that something that we can just kind of grow to expect? I mean, just kind of, if we can get that 12 to 16 cars, is that kind of what you're expecting?
I think it depends where you are. I mean, in what night of the week you run. Because like in Eastern Wisconsin, just for example, I mean, you have to preface this that it was opening night. So opening night is always a special night. But Outagamie Speedway in Seymour opened last Friday. And they had 178 cars in 5 divisions. So their lowest car... I'm not sure. I mean, they have a curfew, so because the track's located in the city.
Okay.
But the division that had the lowest car count had 29 cars.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. That's all IMCA stuff over there. I'd be curious now if they have a hard curfew. I'd be curious to know if they got it done in a 3.5 hour to 4 hour window. If they did, that's impressive. That's flat out getting after it. I don't have any idea. But where I'm kind of going with this, Bert, is I've seen some entertaining programs, like in my mind, okay, and some people may argue with this. In my mind, 2 good, solid heats, and when I mean solid heats, I mean 7, 8 cars in a heat, maybe 9. I think that's enough. I think if you can hit that 15, 16, 18 cars per class, I think that's enough, especially with tracks trending unfavorably Puka's direction to where they want 8, 9, 10 classes. I know Puka loves that.
Well, see that's part of the problem is they create these new divisions to try to get people involved in racing, but all you're doing is diluting the other divisions because drivers are, just as an example, IMCA had the modifieds. And I mean, there is good number of modified drivers all over the place. So then IMCA introduces this low dollar sport mod division as a starter class. And what happens then is some of the drivers who were racing modifieds but necessarily weren't the top runners, well, they drop down to the sport mod division. And yes, the sport mod division is good for the younger drivers to get started, but you diluted the modified division when you created this other division. And that's part of the problem with some of these racing organizations is it's like, okay, we have it's always because they always introduce a new class because they want to introduce a beginner class, a low dollar class. And like for the sport mod division, maybe not the first couple of years that it was going on, but I mean, drivers are racing brand new chassis in the sport mod division in a beginner class.
Yeah, same thing in Wissota when they brought the Midwest mods in the intent of that class, the intent was good. I disagreed with it in Hibbing. I voted against it in Hibbing when I was in the association over there. I'm not very shy about saying that because I saw the writing on the wall. And the intent of it was to keep it low paying, $200 to win, $250 to win. And if somebody goes out and spends $50,000 on a race car for $200 to win, that's their own dumb fault. That's just stupid, right? But then all of a sudden, there's $1,000 to win, $3,000 to win, $3,000 to win, $10,000 to win in the, let's call it the starter mod class or B mods, right? And next thing you know, they're like, well, there's a lot of money on the line. I ain't going to run this used stuff. I'm going to go get a brand new car. And they got brand new cars, brand new tires, $10,000 engines. Like literally you can put a 525 crate in a late model cheaper than you can buy a top of the line Wissota Midwest mod motor. It just don't even make sense. It's just stupid. So they've ruined it. And you're exactly right. But with that said, unfortunately, I don't see that changing.
Oh, right.
So with that said, I'm almost kind of thankful, I guess, if they're going to have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 classes of cars, I don't want to see 5 heats in each because, oh my gosh, you'd be there.
In that regard, yeah. Me personally, I like to see at least 20 cars in a division. I think, if you could get up to 21, that's 7 cars per heat, 7 solid cars in a heat race, that's not. Right. That's not too bad. But see, for me, anything under 15, then and
it depends on the track. So you're at a half mile too. So I mean, if you get on a half mile, and you get a 12 or 14 car feature. Right. Oh man, right? Now if you're on a little bull ring like say Watertown, it's a quarter mile. 14 cars, 16 cars actually can put together a pretty good race. In fact, 24 cars in Watertown can be a disaster, so I think you're right. I think it kind of varies on each track, but I guess where I'm going with that, I've seen some pretty entertaining programs with just that 14 to 16 cars, but you're right. If it's too big of a track, that would not be good either.
And I mean, if you have 16 quality cars, then, they can put on a good show. Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Well, let's get to some national news. And I think in our neck of the woods, Bert, the big one, of course, was the Dairyland Showdown over at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway. And I'm just going to say it right here, Bert, we couldn't have hit it on the head any better than we did last year, right? Because they were the 2020 regional track of the year. And I was impressed. I tell you, Tyrone and Bob Tim in my opinion, they did a hell of a job over there at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Gave us a quality, entertaining program Friday and Saturday night. Bert, I'm going to just let you take it from here. I'll fill in at the end of it. But what stuck out to you over at Mississippi Thunder?
Well, first, I interviewed Tyrone probably like 2 weeks prior to the event, and because I wanted to do a preview story, and I put that on the Full Throttle website, which is fullthrottlenow.com. And when I interviewed Tyrone, he said that, him and Bob were looking at this as their one opportunity to not only prove to the state of Wisconsin, but to prove to the country that they can host a big event like this. And I agree. I mean, I watched the racing action. I didn't go there in person, but I watched the stream of it. And yeah, I mean, good racing both nights. He said that, they're going to do whatever they had to make the track racy. They're going to farm it up before the features. And I mean, there were slide jobs and just good hard racing, and A+ effort on their part to put on that show.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. Now, kind of a little interesting side note, I guess, the first night. So it was a Woo show. There was no Lucas Oil late model action this weekend. T-Mac was up there. And all of a sudden I'm like, what happened to T-Mac? Sounds like he had kidney stones there on night one. It sounds like he missed the whole event, like he was in too much pain, didn't get to race. He did get to race on night two, but Bert, have you ever had kidney stones?
No, I haven't, and I hope I never do.
They suck. I'm not going to lie. I've had them, and it is basically, I'd say that's what quit making me drink pop, because, and you say soda, I say pop, right? But, I'll be honest, my doctor told me, he says, all that sugar or whatever, that's kind of a cause of that. And I'm like, I don't ever want them again. Like, if that's what I'm going to get when I have that, now I'm staying away because they suck. So I'm glad to see he was back out there. I'll start with the mods a little bit. Just briefly, Corey Mader kind of shocked the world. Kind of slid back there night one in the feature, come out of nowhere, and he put that 55 in victory lane. So kind of a local guy. Surprised not to see him up at Menominee, but flat out got it done. Night number two, Dustin Sorensen from 10th, just pounding the cushion on the high side. Absolutely impressive. The mod racing, if they didn't even have late model racing, the mod features both night were absolutely amazing. The late model races were just as good. I guess the big news is a guy that's kind of been in our Who's Not segment a lot. How about Brandon Shepherd finally getting a real win on the season? Now we'll just get rid of that half. We're going to say he's got one win because that half is stupid. But he finally got her done, night number one over there. So B-Shep finally in victory lane. I honestly thought he was going to double up, Bert, because he got the lead, and then he kind of faded a little bit. I don't think he was quite feeling the whole banging the cushion slide job, and he just he was rolling the middle a little bit and kind of backed her up. What did he get? I think he was top five still. Was he fourth or fifth?
He was third.
Oh, he was still on the podium then, so he was there. But I think he wouldn't have been on the podium. A couple guys kind of made some mistakes and slid back. Madden, of course, he ran good. He won the second night. Now, a couple of things that stuck out to me. Jimmy Mars on the podium night one. Boy, he put the backup beeper on a night two, though. He got up to the front. He was battling. I'm like, he's there. Here comes Mars. And that topside came in, and let's be honest, Mars is like, I don't know part of that. Like, I'm going to go down here on the bottom, and he's known for tipping that left front tire over the tires and rolling the bottom, and he just kind of got shuffled back. I think on a restart, he lost a few spots, so not as good on night two. But I'd say the guy that really had the breakout weekend and something I was pretty happy to see, Brent Larson, the B1 Bomber, second place. And, when I think second, and let's just be honest, Bert, over the last couple of years, if I said Brent Larson got second, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is when I started in the front lockdown, nobody could pass. He just, probably kind of what happened. Mars couldn't catch him. He drove away from Mars. So he got Mars. So he got second, and he drove away from third, and he actually wasn't too far off of Shepherd.
He was actually leading at one point.
Yeah, he led the majority of the race, right? Shepherd got by him, but even on a late restart there, he kind of drove away from Jimmy. So great. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's see if he can double it up. And I look at the lineup. Well, sure as heck, there's Brent Larson starting back in 19th. I'm like, oh, there goes that deal, right? Hard Charger, he got to 10th.
Yep.
So not only did he get his best career finish in the World of Outlaws, he backed it up, but I think, I could be wrong, but I think this might be the first time since he's been following World of Outlaws where he's had back-to-back top 10s.
Could be.
I don't recall that happening before. So great weekend for him over there. Great racing action. Anything else on Mississippi Thunder?
Well, I'd like to just do a shout out to some of the local drivers that went there. Taylor Scheffler was impressive. He made the show both nights, finished 11th in the first on Friday night, and then finished 16th on Saturday night. So, I mean, not too shabby for a local guy. Jake Tim finished 7th on Saturday night and 12th on Friday night. So 2 strong runs for him. Yep. Nick Avlink made the show on Saturday night, didn't make it Friday night, but made it Saturday night, finished 20th. Mitch McGrath made it both nights, finished 16th and 21st. And Jared Seifert, who doesn't get to run with these guys very often, qualified on Saturday night and finished 24th. So, late model car count was a little low at Shawano because these guys were racing there. So it's good to see that some of them made the show. And unfortunately, I heard that Ron Berna blew an engine on Friday night when he was there. Hopefully
he's got another one. Yeah,
hopefully he can put something together.
Yeah, no, another guy that was there, Jeffrey Massengill, who's been really strong in Wissota. He couldn't get it to run the first night. Like, he had all kinds of issues, like engine problems. And then the next night he went out and same thing early on, time trials. He just couldn't get it to run. And then in the B main, the last chance, they finally got it running good. And I think they got 4th in the B main and just missed transferring. So hopefully they got it figured out. He's really strong in the Wissota stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing him maybe transition that over and get some good runs in the open late model stuff.
One more thing before we move on, I just need to make a comment. Brendan Shepard won Friday night, but when things don't go his way, he's a little whiny. Did you hear his comments about Kyle Strickler?
I didn't hear the comments, but I saw at the end of the race, he kind of pulled up in front of them and stopped as they were pulling off the track. And I didn't know if that was on purpose or inadvertent or whatever. But then I did hear that there was a little drama there. What happened there?
Well, Shepard I was reading a post-race story, and he said that Strickler wasn't able to pass him without running into him. And Strickler had a different his story was different. He said he never touched him and that he's going to start racing drivers the way that he gets raced. And I actually heard those comments before I watched the race. So I was kind of watching specifically. And there was one time when the two did make contact, pretty good contact, actually. They kept going. But there were a few other times when Shepard put a slider on Strickler one time, and Strickler could have just nailed him if he wanted to, spun him out and kept going and kept his spot, but it looked like he laid off and let Shepard up in there. So we'll have to watch those two the rest of the season.
We will. And you know what they say, character is judged in the highs and lows of life, and how humble are you when you're winning and how big of a whiner are you when you're losing. And I think he's being tested right now because he's not having the season he's used to. So that'll be interesting to follow for sure. Now, we do have a new deal here, Bert. So Connie Duino, Brad is a longtime listener of the show here, came up with the fan question of the week, okay? And they were down at the Mississippi Thunder, said that was the first time there, and they were highly impressed. They're going to go back. They really enjoyed their time there. So the guys over, Bob and Tyrone, thumbs up to you. But her question was, how come you don't see numbers and sponsors on the side of haulers? How come you don't see that? Remember back in the day, all the open trailers had their numbers on them, right? You just don't see that anymore. Now, I'll get to that in a second. Now, Shane Sobratsky, he does, right? Shane Sobratsky, that thing's got West Metro all down the side of the thing. He's got the 7A on there. It's all doctored up. Now, there was a time, the answer to this question is this. So there was a period of time where all these people that had these big haulers were basically trying to get under the radar. They put RV plates on and they'd be like, we're going to try to not be commercial. That time is long gone. Okay, you got to stop at the scales now. I mean, it is clear and obvious you're a commercial entity if you have a race car hauler. I don't really know why they don't have them on there anymore. Maybe it's a resale value thing, but the whole, I guess the trend why they didn't for the longest time is they didn't want to attract attention from the Department of Transportation. They didn't want to get pulled over by DOT and have to get everything all checked out. And they wanted to stay away from all of that. Well, again, they still have to stop. It just is what it is. So I think that needs to come back, right? I think that needs to come back. If I was a sponsor, right, they're only on the track for a little while. They're only, maybe on streaming platforms or whatever. If I was the primary sponsor, I'd want my name all down the side of that, right? It's a traveling billboard. We used to say that all the time. That was kind of a marketing deal when we had open trailers. Race cars are like a traveling billboard. Fans can see the sponsors on the car going up and down the highways, driving through town and all that. The same thing should happen with haulers. So I would like to see that trend come back to where they do get the sponsors up there, at least the primary ones. But if it were me, now knowing what I know today, I'd have my primary sponsor on there. I'd have my number, and then maybe down the bottom, right, maybe have your associate sponsors or whatever on there. But I think that's a great question, and that's something that I guess I hadn't thought about for a while.
Well, and one of the things with these haulers being so plain and nothing on them is, if you're a fan and you go to the races, like if I'm, go to Cedar Lake Speedway for the USA Nationals, where you park, you can see the haulers in the pit area, but you have no idea who's there until they actually take the cars out. Where if if the haulers had some markings, number and sponsors, you'd be able to figure out who it is.
You know what's crazy, Bert, is if you think about it, their apparel trailers usually have graphics down the side of them.
Yeah.
So
some of them do, yeah.
Some of them do. And like the World of Outlaw trailer, I know the Mars trailer did, the Dirt Car trailer, the USMTS has a trailer. So all these series, all of their stuff's all wrapped up, right? So the racers just haven't transitioned back to that yet. And I get it. It's another expense that they got to incur, but some of these guys are getting a whole lot of money from their sponsors, and they probably should be looking. Now, hey, so let's jump off that, Bert. And so B-Shep, he won, right? So he finally got his first win of the year, and it was 12,500. So it's a pretty good win for B-Shep. Jimmy Owens says, me too. Because if you remember back at Cherokee, both of them won that each night or each feature for that half a feature deal, right? Well, Jeff pointed it out. He says, I don't think B-Shep can win without Owens trying to win too. So Owens went down to Smoky Mountain, Ray Cook's deal down there, the Schaefer Spring Nationals, 53 laps, 10,053 to win. And in case you're wondering, Ray Cook was number 53. Kind of a neat deal where he's got 53 tied into anything. It's like I can't let it go either, so I get it. But Jimmy Owens got her done there and basically dominated that race. So, I mean, not only did he win, but he did it pretty convincingly. Overton in lap traffic kind of got reasonably close to him a couple times, but the class of the field was Jimmy Owens. So, Bert, how about that, man? I mean, them two couldn't go. I mean, they went the first 4 months of the year. Neither one of them can win a race, and then they both went on the same weekend. I'm not convinced yet. We'll get to that in just a little bit. So now, did you over at Atomic? Did you see that Josh Rice just about shocked the world again?
Well, I want to say about that track. That is a elbows up track.
Oh my, unbelievable! I thought highly entertaining. And let's be honest. So Devin Moran won the race, and I think it was 10 or 12 to win, something around that neighborhood. But the fastest car on the track, and it wasn't even close, was Josh Rice. I mean, he'd mess up and he'd track him down. He'd mess up, he'd track him down. He chucked a slider, and then finally, right around lap 20, he went to chuck a slider on him, and he overshot it, and he KO'd the fence, and he pulled off. I'm guessing he tore the J-bar out, and he hit hard, but he should have won that race. Devin Moran, he's continued to impress. Another win there. And Turbo got fourth in that deal. Kinda. Last lap, I think he was battling for second, and he chucked it right off the end of the racetrack, right? He didn't even cross the checkered flag. He got fourth. Didn't even cross the flag. Did not even finish the race. I'm like, well, how the hell did he get fourth? Fifth was lapped. There was only 4 cars on the lead lap. So it's like, all right, fair enough. So Turbo, he's an elbows up kind of guy. That track hit him for sure. But
well,
racing.
And I mean, if you wanted to go anywhere in that race, you had to run the high side, and the high side was like 6 inches from the wall.
It was right there for sure. So let's get to some World of Outlaws sprint car action. So Eldora, they finally they had a race over at Eldora Friday night. It looked like it was going to be one of these Boone Super Nationals. Let's race at 4 a.m. type deal. And they went out and they're trying to pack it in, and they're like, we just can't get the bottom in. So they time trialed Friday night, and then they ran a double show on Saturday. And again, day racing, it just is what it is. The first race just quite frankly sucked. I mean, it did. Brent Marks won that deal. Sheldon Hodenschild got second in that deal. Okay, now I believe you had Sheldon, right?
Yes, I did.
Did he lead part of that race too?
He led the majority of the race.
So Bert almost got one, but Brent Marks took it away. Okay. You wouldn't have got one anyway.
I know.
He got second in the feature. He went across the scales light. So that would have been even worse for you because it would have. Second. But if you would have won and been like, no, I don't think so. And so Donnie Schatz, he got third. Schatz has been just consistently like there, right? We're going to get to that in a second. Now the evening race comes about, and they farmed the track. They did a good job. They actually went out completely reworked the racetrack. I thought they lost it for the whole day. They went out, they farmed it all up, they tilled it all up, and they put the second show was way better than the first. And one of the first things that happened in the feature, the wild child Jack Hodenschild, back in the Pennzoil 22, driving for Rico, he got upside down for his second time of the night. And the first one wasn't his fault. The second one, he clipped the bottom, rolled over. But boy, I tell you, Sheldon Hodenschild, Jack Hodenschild, checkers or wreckers. I mean, you can kind of see the apple don't fall too far from the tree there, right? So let's get to the race. In the race, there was a couple lead changes early. I think Schatz started back in the 5th row. I think he started back there a ways. And here comes Donnie Schatz on the bottom. I'm like, my God, he's bolted. Like, he is absolutely on fire. He gets the lead on the bottom. He drives away. And I'm like, here it is. Finally going to get win number 300. And I'm like, gone, right? Pete, Jeff both had Donnie Schatz. They're like, we're riding this train. He's getting it. 5 laps to go. Here comes Sheldon Hodenschild. He's coming for him. 2 laps to go. Sorry, Jeff. Sorry, Pete. Not today. Hodenschild hustling on the high side, gets the win and just checks out in the last lap. Logan Schuhart, who I picked, Bert, I think he started 21st. He actually slipped by Schatz at the end, too. He got second, so Schatz, a pair of thirds. Very respectable, but it's kind of like that Days of Thunder. Boy, he got the balls to go to the outside, right? That's kind of like Donnie Schatz right now. It's like, he's 40. I talked to a friend of his. He's like, he's 40-some years old. He's not going to be the guy carving on the wall. He does not tear up equipment, right? He's on the bottom. He's smooth. He's steady. But if the top doesn't come in, if the cushion's not there, he wins that race. I mean, he's smooth through the middle. But man, will he ever get win number 300? I'm starting to have my doubts. What do you think?
He'll get it. He's getting too many podium finishes right now not to eventually get a win. He'll get it eventually, and I guess you can say that it'll be even sweeter once he does get it, that now that he has to wait a little bit longer, it seems.
The monkey's got to come off the back there. I can tell you this, it's not going to be on an elbows up, cushion pushing type deal. He ain't going to win there. It's going to be on one of those that's black without a cushion. The top maybe marbled up, and that's going to be the kind of track that he wins on. So, Bert, let's get to it. Who's hot? Who's not for this week's edition. Who's hot over there for you, Bert? Top 3. Who's hot?
Well, I'll start locally, and I'm gonna go Justin Ritchie. I mean, 2 feature wins after you made fun of him just week after week after week, and and so 2 wins in a row. I'm gonna put him on my list. I'm gonna stay local, Eastern Wisconsin for the other driver. I'm gonna put Taylor Scheffler for qualifying twice for the Outlaw shows. I mean, not just qualifying. I mean, he 11th place finish, and I think it was 16th. I mean, those are very respectable finishing spots for a local. And then nationally, I have to go with Davenport. I mean, two feature wins and
why
two feature wins in 1 week, and down in Batesville. He had to work a little bit for the first one, but the second one, I mean, he got in the lead pretty quick and just pulled away from everybody. So he continues to stay hot. I mean, those weren't big money races, but actually, I mean, 5,000, that's chump change compared to what he's won in some of the races.
The second one was 13, though. The second race was 13,000. That's a pretty solid one right there. So win 11 and win 12. That's why I had number 1 on my list too, Bert. Jonathan Davenport. I mean, I don't think there's another late model guy in double digits, and he's at 12. So he just continues to knock him off. It'll be interesting to see what he does this week. I'm guessing he's going to run the Lucas Oil stuff. So we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to go local with the other 2 as well. First one I'm going to go with is a mod guy, Ashley Anderson. 3 starts, 3 wins. One of them, he come from last after a first lap altercation. This week, he started back in the 4th row again, and nobody was good there, right? I mean, Buzzy showed up, and Shane Sobraski showed up, and Jody Belfi showed up, and Ashley Anderson said, it don't matter. I'm going to the front. Now, with that said, rookie Shane Halapka may have given one away. He took the lead with the white flag. He had the lead at the white flag. He come into 1 and 2, jumped the cushion off 2, and he actually fell back to 3rd because he just had a meltdown on the last lap. It's like, if there's a word for buck fever for a rookie trying to win their first race, let's come up with it, because whatever it is, he had it, right? And another guy local, and I'm going to put Brent Larson on here. I mean, that he just keeps digging. He has a good attitude. He keeps digging. He goes out there. He gets another podium. I think he got, what did he get, 4th or 5th earlier this year? Was that his first podium of the year? I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so he runs second. I know he had a couple top 5s, I believe. He had a good run down there. I don't remember what track it was, but he got second, in a very solid second. I mean, he didn't have 3rd, right on his quarter panel, comfortably in second, follows that up with another top 10 finish. He's got a new crew chief. He's got some new help. He said he has another guy that's really helping, that he's able to bounce ideas off. Maybe the pieces are starting to come together. And can we possibly see some more podiums? Can we possibly see him fight for a win at some point this season? I hope so. It'd be good to see the B1 Bomber steal one in the World of Outlaws there. So that's what we got for who's hot, Bert. Now, who's not?
You want me to go? I will say Ricky Weiss. He just continues to struggle. He doesn't qualify well, and which sets him back, and so he's on the list. And I mentioned this driver a couple of weeks ago, and Dennis Erb. I mean, he just, you expect to see him, at least in the top 10, but he's not even finishing in the top 10. I mean, at Mississippi Thunder, he was 13th, I believe, and then 25th. And, that's just not what we're used to out of him. And then I have to say Overton. I mean, last year he made his bread and butter running these regional races, and just racked up wins and collected money, but he's not able to accomplish that same goal this year.
So we're on the same page. I mean, I have Overton on there. He got second this past weekend down there to Jimmy, but admittedly in Victory Lane, when they talked to him, he's like, we've been struggling. Like, I got to find some speed. We just have not been good. He said the car felt better tonight, but he still really had nothing for Jimmy Owens in that one. So he's not contending for wins. We'll see if he turns the corner. I mean, we're still in May. See if he turns the corner there. Ricky Weiss, I'm telling you, like, I don't know if he watches races. I don't know if he goes back and watches the film or what, but how many nights in a row can you have the same ungodly mid-corner push and, like, not fix it? I mean, that car doesn't turn at all, not even a little tiny bit. And I watched Edgerton over in River Cities. His car don't turn either. It's a sniper. It looks exactly like Ricky's. Comes in the corner, car is all bound up. It pushes up the track. He's got to kind of slide it to turn. And I know Massengill's supposed to be debuting that sniper. Dude, sell that thing, okay? I talked to Brett, and I'm like, no, dude, I have no confidence. I have not seen any signs of that thing being even remotely fast, right? So I'm a little bit nervous for the 6M because a pair of 14s there for Ricky Weiss. Quite honestly, he's regressed. I mean, last year I picked him to win. Last year, the World of Outlaw Championship, he runs second, had a pretty solid year, and he's just getting slower and slower and slower. And he's just, quite honestly, he's kind of a non-factor. And if he does work his way up into the top 10, usually it's through attrition. He's had a couple okay finishes in there, but he just ain't been very good. And then I'm going to go with Brandon Sheppard and Jimmy Owens combined. Yes, they each won a race this weekend. I'm not convinced. I'm not. Okay, I'm just not. Brandon Sheppard had the lead on Saturday, and he backed it up to 30. Actually fell back further than that, but he ended up getting back up in there. Pierce actually did Pierce things and KO'd the wall getting into turn one. That gave him a freebie right there. But I'm just not convinced that they're back. So I'm just going to still consider them on the struggle bus. Really 1.5 wins from each, and we're halfway through May. Now, let's get to the last lap, Bert. Brought to you by our friends over at Zuli's Racing Engines. Frank Zuli building great engines. A special shout out, Willie Ferguson won the Street Stock feature over at the Black Hills Speedway, Rapid City, South Dakota. I talked to Frank. He said, first night with a Zuli motor, first night in Victory Lane. So hats off to him. So Parker Anderson, of course, he had a pair of wins this weekend with Zuli Performance, with Zuli Race Engines, building great engines. Get a hold of him. He'll take good care of you. Let's get to the last lap, Bert. Several drivers with multiple wins or some kind of a streak going. And who do you got? I know you got some folks over in Eastern Wisconsin. Who do you want to give an extra shout out?
Well, I mean, Justin Ritchie has 2 wins in a row. So,
bridesmaid no more.
Nope. And I mean, in Eastern Wisconsin, we had a streak broken because he didn't show up at the track. But Mike Mullen, who had won 3 straight modified features at Shawano Speedway, raced at 141 this past weekend. So
how do you do?
I don't even know how he did.
Well, we'll have to check out. I don't think he won. I know.
He raced at Outagamie on Friday night, and he was involved in an early wreck.
Okay.
Car spun out kind of in front of the entire field, and it looked like a parking lot.
Yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen. Now, this guy here, quite honestly, been a little bit on the struggle bus as compared to what I'm used to seeing him. Really wasn't great most of the weekend, but he did double up at Ogilvie. Shane Sobraski with a pair of wins. Of course, we talked about Ashley Anderson, 3 in a row in the 81 modified. The 1 TPO, Tyler Peterson, winner over at the I-94 Sure Step Speedway in Fergus Falls. He says he's been trying to get one there, Bert, for a long time. Finally put one in Victory Lane, and he went to Casino, started on the front row, and put it in kill mode. Kyle Dykoff also won at the I-94 Speedway and Casino. Parker Anderson, who I just mentioned in Zuli Race Engines, won at Ogilvie and at the Granite City Motor Park. Travis Sauer, a mod guy, back into a Midwest mod running one of his dad's car, a pair of wins, I-94 in the Viking Speedway. Dave Flynn in the Super Stocks making the trip down to Wisconsin, the Red Cedar Speedway in Rice Lake. And another shout out, Kennedy Swan, a gal, I think she's maybe 16, 17, 18 years old. She got her first win of the year, or first win of her career, last fall in Lansing, Minnesota from 9th. Bert, she put that thing in absolute kill mode and won by almost a straightaway in Menominee in the Wissota Midwest Mods. I mean, she absolutely curb stomped them. So, I mean, that was super impressive. Hats off to her. And that's it for shoutouts, but I have an update because where's Waldo, right? Scott Bloomquist, is this guy even like, where the heck is he? What's he doing? I know he fell off the World of Outlaw Tour, right? But there's all these other races going on. You'd think he'd make an appearance somewhere. And then we saw on the news at, what was it, the Kentucky Derby, didn't somebody get disqualified for, illegal, wasn't it the horse got disqualified for performance enhancing drugs, right? The trainer got suspended. I'm thinking in my mind, is Bloomer in horse racing now? Like, is he over there? Did they find him? Well, that wasn't where he was. Okay. I actually did a little bit more research than that. I talked to Charlie, and they said they're not going to race here for another week or so. Their next race out, they're going to hit the Show Me 100. And that's their next race out. So that's a little bit on Scott Bloomquist right there. A little bit of that horse racing. Evidently, there's race. If you can race it, you can cheat in it. I don't care if you hear about performance enhancing drugs in the Olympics. You hear about people cheating all the time in racing. And man, the Kentucky Derby. Did you ever think a horse would have performance enhancing drugs? Really?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of money in horse racing.
Yeah, evidently. So. Now, the picks of the week. Let's get to the picks of the week, Bert. Last week, we got the Ophir again, the big old giant goose egg. We're back. We had a really good week the week before. And this past week, evidently, we forgot how to pick completely. But this week, Bert, the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, right? They are racing Wednesday at Lincoln, Friday at Williams Grove, Saturday at Williams Grove. So I'm going to jump on here. I got to look back at my notes because I didn't write this down. But why don't you, and write it down, Bert, if you got a pen, who are you picking to win those ones?
I will go with Brad Sweet on Wednesday. Sheldon Haddenschild on Friday. And Saturday. Double up.
Sweet, Sheldon, and Sheldon. All right. So I'm looking at this right here. And Keith is taking Sheldon at Lincoln. He's taking Gravel night 1 at Williams Grove. And he's taking Donnie Schatz night 2 at Williams Grove. Now, I know Jeff's is on here somewhere too. So bear with me for just a second. I'm going to look to see. I don't think Pete gave us a pick here. I haven't really so Pete's kind of a ball dropper on us here. He didn't quite. He's been busy. He's got some stuff going on. So he's taking the week off. Which, if we're on pace, Bert,
it won't matter.
It won't matter. So he'll be perfectly okay. So Jeff, he's taking Sweet, and Sweet. Okay, that's who he's taking there. So I'm taking a picture of this, and I am gonna. So Sweet, Sheldon, and Sheldon is who you got. He's got. I did this last week. He didn't get any right. You know what? I'm gonna do this, Bert. I'm going to do this. I'm taking Donnie Schatz all 3 nights. I'm taking Schatz. So, am I overly confident that he's going to win? Nope. But he's due. He's due. So I'm taking Schatz all 3 nights, and I'm really hoping I can get one of those nights right. Now, the Lucas Oil late model spurt, Friday night, they're at the 411. Saturday night, they're at Talladega. Who do you got?
I will take Superman for Friday and T-Mac on Saturday.
Okay, write these down and text them on over to me, will you? And
Okay.
so Keith, and I don't know, I'm not 100% sure if he's going to be there, but I feel like there's a pretty good chance he's taking Overton to win those. And Jeff actually took, take a look here. I think he took Davenport for both. He did. He took Davenport for both. So you took Davenport and T-Mac, right?
Yes.
And Jeff took JD at both. Overton at both for Keith. I'm going to go and say RTJ. RTJ for me. That's
For
who I'm
both?
going to for both. So I got Shots and RTJ. Pete is not on there. Maybe we'll put it in the news feed if he gives me a pick. I haven't seen a text message come in from him yet, so not quite there. Now we'll finish with this, Bert. There is a pile of racing, an insane amount of racing coming up this week, but we have a few that stick out to us. What are your must-see events of the week?
Are we not picking USMTS?
No, we're going to skip that just because you haven't watched a ton of it. I'm really honestly only going to watch the USMTS if I hear if Glenn's or Ebert ran well, then I'll jump on and watch the recap. But with all the Wissota action, local action, all this action, I probably there's only so much time in a day, so we're going to kind of shy away from the USMTS for now. Nothing against
all right. I'm cool with that.
So the must-see events of the week. What do you got?
I am going to go with the Dirt Kings race in Wilmot on Sunday.
Diamond 43.
It's one of the 40. I believe it's 4,300 to win. It's one of their highest paying events. It's down in Wilmot, which is near the Wisconsin-Illinois border. And the Dirt King series, they've been doing a good job of posting already registered drivers for this event. And, supposedly Bobby Pierce is supposed to be there. Jason
operator.
Jason Feger. And, so you're going to get some of the bigger Illinois drivers. X Factor, I saw he was going to try to make it there. And then you'll have, the Dirt Kings drivers. I believe I saw a post that Nick Avalink was supposed to be going down there. So
I saw that. Justin Ritchie, your defending champ.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that should be a pretty good show with regional drivers in the area. Well, and I mean Bobby Pierce, you could call him a national driver.
And with that being on a Sunday and close, right? No World of Outlaw race this weekend.
Right.
Maybe you could see Brian Shirley. Maybe you could see Dennis Erb Jr., right?
Because the Mars, they race what, Friday, Saturday? So
right.
Yeah, I mean they're racing in that area.
Right.
So yeah, you may see some other drivers. They may be waiting to see how they do in those two races before they
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. So for sure. And I know that race is not screamed, but I talked to Jason from the Dirt Kings and he said there will be someone there videotaping it. So maybe they'll be able to we'll have access to that after the fact. I'm not really sure. I hope so, because I'm not going to be able to make it to that. I'd love to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And the Mars race, Fairbury. I mean, how can you not put Fairbury on a must-see event? So, we talked about the Mars series earlier in the show, and I mean, they put on a good show. I mean, they have some quality drivers that race that series. So, and like I said, when you put Fairbury into the mix, I mean,
and no woo. There's no woo going on, so you're going to see some of them guys too. And what do you got for your third one?
And I would put the two Lucas Oil races just because they were off for a little bit, so they're getting back into racing again. So those are my my 3 events.
There you go. So I'm starting with the Mars races. Of course, 2 Illinois hotspots. You got Farmer City, who obviously they have great racing over there. And then, Falls. That place is unbelievable. And bold prediction right now. I'm making a bold prediction. It's not in our picks, but I'm making a bold prediction. Rocket One is going to win both. That's my bold prediction of the week right there.
Will he be racing a Rocket One?
I bet he might be in the 5. He might be in the 5, but so yeah, Brandon Shepherd will win both. That's a good point. I better go ahead next. If he's in the 5, I would be wrong. So Brandon Shepherd is going to win both. Now, I agree on the Lucas races. I'm looking forward to them. One locally, I'm really excited. They're getting back in action. Is the Halbert Line Speedway, Proctor, Minnesota. They're back in action this Sunday night. They had a year off last year due to COVID. They had practice. I heard the track was in good shape on Sunday. So they have sort of late models, mods, super stocks, Midwest mods, and then they got Piers and Hornets Sunday night. If you can't make it there in person, which hopefully you can, but if you can't, watch drc.tv. Dirt Race Central will have the action. That's where I'm going to be catching it for sure. And I had the Lucas Oil on there as well, but I'm going to go with the World of Outlaws. Keith pointed something out to me. So the World of Outlaws, they're heading to Pennsylvania, Bert. So if you think about it, you got the Pennsylvania Posse versus the World of Outlaws. And he says, keep an eye on Lance DeWeese, because he doesn't remember what race it was, but I think there was a race Lance DeWeese stole one from all them guys and won. So that is, that's kind of a rivalry right there in the sprint car world, that Pennsylvania Posse versus the Woo guys. So I'm kind of looking forward to that swing. And of course, Williams Grove is a iconic sprint car track. So I'm looking forward to that racing action over there. And then, there's just a ton of racing. There's so much racing going on. Get to a track. If you can't make it to a track, we'll post somewhere, whether it's on Facebook or whatever, kind of a list, so to speak, of all the different races that you can go to or watch online. But Bert, there's a ton of them.
Just to prove the point of how much racing there's going on, in our top 3 events, we don't even have the Castro night of racing in America.
Right. That's on
Wednesday. Which we normally do.
Yeah, and there's 2 races on Wednesday, right? The World of Outlaws, the sprint cars race on Wednesday, and that's a good field of cars. Jeff told me, I think you might have mentioned it too, that Kyle Larson has it on his schedule that he's looking like he might be there on Wednesday. So, it's going to be good. There's a lot of racing. We're into that time of the year that there's no shortage on racing at all. If you can't make it to one, there's plenty online. There's a lot of racing happening. So Bert, anything else you want to add here in episode 79?
No, we covered a lot tonight. Well, I should add that our first issue of Full Throttle magazine will be, it's at the printer right now, so it'll be released later this week. So this is a the One to Go show exclusive. This is a copy of the cover of this issue. So
nice. Nice. Check it out. It's always good to racing coverage. It's always good, whether you're watching it, listening to it, reading it, being there. It don't matter. All racing all the time. And race fans, especially in the Wauwatosa area, right in eastern Wisconsin, brand new power rankings coming out tomorrow. So check out the power rankings with all this racing action going on. There's a little bit of change, and some people climbing their way to the top, and some people kind of got kicked to the curb. But you'll have to check out those shows to find out who.